I just would rather be more myself that is more compassionate and warm and kind of just, you know, I can be sympathetic to what everybody else wants too, right? And I've found all the way around, that's how you get the best out of people. You know, like that's how you get the best out of the staff. And I know I'm not great at a lot of things, and when you know you're not great at a lot of things, you hire the best.
Hey there, welcome back to the Oz Shift Podcast. I'm your host, Anthony Trucks, and as always, we got another amazing guest. We've been leveling up the guests, man, and it's been a blast to get to talk to some people who are in interesting, unique pockets of the world that are great pockets. And the pocket we're gonna go into today is the pocket of somebody going into the realm of being an action sports videographer, photographer, that realm where, like, you're pretty much watching people bust elbows and break knees. And I'm sure you got some cool stories there, to then creating a company out of the blue that eventually he was able to sell to Anheuser-Busch, I believe it was, for like $100 million. That's not small beans, man. And then at the same time had an 11-month-old fledgling company get a big offer, and kind of we'll talk more about that. But has been able to create really amazing brands, and he's still doing it. This isn't something that was in the past. Like, he's still in the trenches of doing it, and I'm excited to figure out not just the information of how it took place, but the man behind the scenes. You guys know this whole podcast is about the human, the off shift moments. I spent literally maybe 3 minutes with the guy before we started recording. You can tell he's a good dude just off the regular banter of humans. So I'm excited to kind of dig in with my next guest, Josh Landon. How are you, man?
I'm good, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. I know you're a busy dude. I mean, it's and then especially the holidays. We're recording this like the week of Christmas, so thank you for your time.
Yeah,
Uh,
no worries.
Here's one question to start with, and you can go wherever you want with it. By the way, there's no specific answer. You can be bold and boisterous, or just be calm and cool, collected. Here's the question: Say I'm walking around town, wherever you happen to live, and I sit down next to this cool guy, just hanging out. Person's you. I don't know you, obviously, and as I'm
Hmm.
sitting there, you turn and start talking to me. Why should I
Hmm.
listen to you?
Well, if you're a sports fan, you'd probably enjoy talking sports, which is what I would probably bring up,
Hmm.
right? The last thing you'd get from me is business talk, and the other last thing would be me telling you that I own alcohol brands.
Yeah.
My 7-year-old son or 11-year-old son or 14-year-old daughter would tell you long before that. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, I mean, I think I think being kind of just a relatable, like, I'm a nice guy,
I like it. I can tell. I feel it.
Yeah, I'm not, yeah, I'm the same guy I've always been, really.
Yeah.
If anything, a bit more mellow these days, but
Why is that? It's like because I always say,
just getting older, not
oh,
less
okay.
competitive,
Yeah.
right? Maybe just working a little bit smarter and
Hmm.
trying to stay more in the middle instead of the roller coaster of the
I dig
emotions
it.
up and down.
It's funny you say that. My best friends. We're still together since like third grade friends. We had a barbecue for my buddy's birthday this last weekend, and I was asking a couple of guys like, "What's new in life?" And they're like, "Ah, nothing." I was like, at a certain age, it's like that's what you want. Like at a certain age, it's
Yeah.
like it's the same. That's a good thing for it to be normalized.
Yep. I usually lie when I say that, but nothing, not much, which is totally not true, right?
Mhm.
But I'm, instead of like getting into everything that's
Yeah,
going
the
on with
depths.
all the brands, like, but it's not as crazy as it used to be. It's busier, but it's
Hmm.
not as crazy, if that makes sense.
I get it. It makes sense. And I'm such at the top of the food chain. We interviewed a guy recently who's head of a like $1 billion company, and he's like, nothing good comes through my door. I've hired people.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
get it.
yeah.
Yeah, I get it.
I can't imagine having to deal with that. So I get that aspect to it. I like that. Why is it that you have the humbleness? Now, I'm not asking because I expect everybody to be boisterous, but I'm curious where this ties in because you typically see, prominently those in the magazines who have these big brands like, your McGregors who like, look at me, do you just dislike the mentality? It's never been who you are. Like, how does that just tie into you?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're being honest, it's right. The obvious thing to say is like, yeah, I don't want the attention, or I'm humble, or those things. But just like an athlete, like you don't get to the the top level not having some sort of need for the recognition to compete at the highest level and be the best,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So I'd be lying if I said that like the ego wasn't there, and I wasn't trying to get approval in some sort of way, and
Hmm.
and have those insecurities that I think everybody does. I think maybe they just, maybe aren't as truthful about how they react to them, right?
Mm.
Um, but for me, it's never been like a loud thing, especially after I sold my first alcohol business. A lot of people would go, in that time where you kind of have that life-changing financial windfall, and people are like, there is a lot of attention.
Hmm.
A lot of folks go out and seek it then, right? Like
Yeah.
they want to do all these different things. And for me, I went the other way, where I just, didn't really want to go anywhere, and didn't want to go out, and if anything, got more introverted. And I
Why is
think
that?
by what's that?
Why was that? Like, was there a reason just want to
Yeah,
be
I
from the
think
world?
I think that's more me, like by nature. I think I've turned myself into an extrovert in
Mm.
in as a necessity to build these businesses and be a filmmaker, right? You kind of hard to be an introvert making documentaries, right?
Yeah, you gotta go out there
You're
and talk to
talking
people.
to people the whole time, right? So
Yeah,
I think yeah, that was an interesting learning experience for me. And one of the main reasons why I wanted to do it was to put yourself through those situations and see the person you are on the other side.
that's cool. Are your kids like you?
My middle son is like me,
Yeah.
very sensitive, and very, like it's funny because in my personal life I'm scared of a lot of stuff. I wasn't like a daredevil kid, right? I
Mm.
never wanted to get hurt, and I never like pushed it personally. And but in business I don't have that fear mechanism, which is strange,
Yeah,
right?
it's
I don't
strange.
have that, like, what if this doesn't work out? I never think like that ever.
Odd. That's usually where you'd see it show up for people. That's like much easier just
You
to
would
go.
think so, right? You
Yeah.
would think so, but
Huh.
no, I don't. For some reason, it's not there. I don't know why.
That's crazy. But I was asking about the kids because I'm like, I wonder how much this becomes good lessons to teach your kids who are like opposite of you. But that's cool to have them be able to watch someone do. So you go through this journey of creating this thing. You tuck away. At some point, like you have to kind of bubble back up. Like at what point do you bubble back up and say, I'm going to do this again? Now, because when you sold the company, did you already have another one you were running also, or you sold it, started
Yeah,
another one?
yeah. I had another idea to do. We were doing a organic coconut water, and
Mm-hmm.
organic kids juice business called Villager.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and so when I sold St. Archer to Coors, um,
Of course.
I was there for about 18 months,
Uh-huh.
and working for them, obviously still running St. Archer, but under the Coors umbrella. And just wasn't for me. um just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
Really, like, really, to boil it, they just didn't want to win as bad as I did.
Ah, how
That was
interesting.
it. I mean, like, that's, when you kind of come from like doing it yourself,
Yeah.
and you're at the speed in which you're mostly comfortable, which
Mhm.
for me is foot on the gas.
Yeah,
And then
breakneck.
you go into that corporate structure, they might want to win, but the speed isn't there.
Yeah, it's all
And so,
corporations. It
and
sucks.
they're fine with things taking a long time, whereas that wasn't conducive to my personality.
Yeah. Most entrepreneurs are not like that. And it's interesting. That's kind of the difference between like entrepreneurship and business, right? Because entrepreneurs, we dig, we go, we grind, it's us. And then businesses, like you look, maybe it's different, but like the corporations, I've worked with some, never worked in one, but it is
Yeah,
ridiculous. It's unsettling how slow it goes. And then,
it's bizarre.
you're
It's
right.
like I don't even know how they do it. It's but I think that's a big deal. Like I didn't, I wouldn't have called. I wasn't even really even comfortable calling myself an entrepreneur until a couple years ago.
Why?
I just, I think like until you, like, I think there's a big difference, obviously, between employee, business owner, and entrepreneur.
Okay.
And I sold St. Archer, but that doesn't really mean you're an entrepreneur, right? Entrepreneur to me means that you have this burning desire to continue to create from scratch.
Mm,
And I didn't know
okay.
that about myself until I put myself through that,
Hmm.
right? And then I created, like I said, 5 businesses before I even got to Ashland. the
Wow.
hard seltzer business. We started in 2020. So, um, I think that I just didn't know that about myself yet. So,
Hmm.
like at St. Archer, it was my first business, even though being a filmmaker is very entrepreneurial. I just, I see people calling themselves entrepreneurs all the time.
Yeah, it's
And
a
I
very
think,
big keyword now.
yeah, it's ridiculous,
Yeah.
right? And it's kind of embarrassing that there's people that own like some little whatever store or business, whatever it is, and they're calling themselves an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
It's like, well, no, you're a business owner,
Yeah. See
right?
that?
Like there's a big difference, right? And it's not like better or worse. It's just, they read it in Fast Company, so they figure,
It's a
why
cool thing
not?
to use. It's a good buzzword. No, I get it. I have some of those things in my life that people like words that I know there's a common meaning to them, but I don't like the way they frame them. Like this is gonna sound odd. And it's a different tangent, but I'm gonna come back here. But my family have this running weird thing where I'm like, look, track and swimming are not sports. It's like, what are you talking about, Dad? I'm like, well, they take an incredible amount of athleticism that I could never do. There's a level of competition. But when I think sport, I'm thinking something I do can definitively affect your ability to do what you're doing. I throw a baseball, you got to hit it. I shoot a basketball, you got to block it. I throw a football, you can knock it. Like it's sport. So like when I get to
Hmm.
the point of like so you just dive in the water. My daughter, she's amazing. I can't swim like she can swim. Can't touch it. But like
Hmm.
if I could reach over the lane and push you, then maybe. But like it's just you against you. So
Yeah,
there's a
yeah,
vernacular thing there. People are gonna be pissed hearing this. I'm like, what are you talking about, Ant? I'm like, I don't know. But I get it.
yeah,
Like there's an entrepreneur and there's an entrepreneur. And I get what you're saying
yeah,
here.
yeah, yeah. I think it's, like I said, I think people, it's a buzzword now for folks, and it's kind of a sexy thing to say, but really, there's nothing sexy about it. If anything, it's been a very stressful run,
Hmm.
right? There's moments of fun,
Yeah.
but they're moments, right? And
Yeah.
everything else is incredibly hard
Do you
and
enjoy that?
incredibly straining on relationships and
I was just gonna ask that.
yeah, everything. I mean,
Yeah.
my wife and I, we've been together since we were 15.
Oh, I'm
Right?
16. I'm not there. You beat me.
We're both 42 now, and she's been through the whole. She's been through it all,
Yeah.
like, and that's what people don't see. They see the product on the shelf, and they read or they listen to podcasts, and that's been my biggest problem with a lot of these like business articles or books or whatever. It's like the glossy version.
Mhm.
You know,
Yeah.
this is what it is. This is what I did. This is why I'm so great. This is like all that shit.
Yeah. Hmm.
And for the real story is like, well, how was your marriage at the time?
Yeah.
Like what was your relationship like with your kids?
Hmm.
Like how often did you see your friends or
Yeah.
your folks or
Yeah.
like whatever it is?
Yeah.
And for me, it was incredibly hard.
Mhm.
You know,
No, I get it.
Still is. We've just kind of learned how to do it now, but
Yeah, dude.
that's the stuff you don't really hear too often.
No, you don't. It's funny you talk about this, and I don't know how much you know of my world or my backstory. Probably, I'm assuming not much because I don't research my interviewers, so it's okay. But uh,
Yeah.
but my wife and I, man, same thing. She has a business. I have a business. We're both entrepreneurs in that aspect where we do like I love to create. She's more of a business owner. I'm more of like let's just do something weird.
Yeah.
And no, we got divorced for 3 years, remarried now,
Yeah.
5 years deep. Like it's a journey, and you do see
Oh,
all the
good for
glitz
you,
and
man.
glamour, but
Congratulations.
thank you, man. But you get it because it's hard, man.
Totally.
It's a long road. Along that journey, man. Like, because there's always this discussion we have in the realm of what I do of guilt being something that people don't talk about. Not so much the shame, but like, do you find there are things you did that you're like, oof, that I felt bad about that, so I'll never do them again. That have helped you progress, whether professionally or personally.
Um, I think maybe the way I've handled certain situations is really, looking back, you go, man, I probably could have handled that better.
Yeah.
Maybe not like what the ultimate decision that I, maybe firing certain people or leaving businesses and the way things are handled. And in the moment, it's always more emotional and
Mhm.
right. And like, when you look back, you're like, God, I probably could have handled that better. And hopefully you learn from that. And the next time, you know, you do it better. But I can't think of anything like everything that I've done, I would do again.
Interesting.
Um,
I
I
like that.
just,
I get it.
I just would maybe handle it with more maturity and
Yeah.
professionalism in some cases. But it's a learning experience.
Yeah. That's probably what it is, huh? It's the idea that because people always ask me too, like, would you change things? I'm like, no, because I don't know what part of it I would lose? Like what knowledge piece I would lose that I needed to
Yeah,
have
and I
success in
do
the future?
believe that's what it takes. Like before I started St. Archer, and I didn't know anything about beer. I wasn't a brewer. I
Really?
didn't know anybody in the beer business. Nothing,
Why'd you get into
nothing.
it then?
I just had the idea to do a beer brand.
It's so
You
crazy.
know,
I love it.
but I knew nothing about beer,
Yeah.
and I didn't even know what a capital raise was. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I had no idea about starting a business,
Mm-hmm.
and somehow raised $3 million and moved my family to San Diego, and we built a 20,000 square foot brewery.
Mm-hmm.
But right before that, I fired three people that were, going to be running sales. One was a creative director, and one was a brewer.
Hmm.
And to fire all of them, would I, knowing what I know now, obviously I wouldn't have put myself in that position with those folks, right?
Gotcha.
They weren't the right fit for me, and I
Mm-hmm.
would have known that now.
Mm-hmm.
But I would have fired them all
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Like I would never apologize for that because that was the right thing to do.
Gotcha.
Just now I'm just a little bit smarter, and
Yeah.
but you can't like beat yourself up for your experiences. Like I think where you can beat yourself up is if you do these things repeatedly and you never like learn from them, then you're just kind of an asshole,
Yeah. Do the same thing over and
and
over again.
there's no sugarcoating that.
How do
But
you handle that the adjustment? Like, is this something where you've always been able to accept there was maybe some things not done well? Was there a boiling point where it took place? I'm always curious about because the mentality I hear from you is like you're wiser. You get the perspective. It's not bad to say you did something bad. Like, where did that kind of
yeah,
float in?
yeah. I mean, I think no, there wasn't any like sort of defining moment. I think like trying to be a better person all the time and I think the biggest key is in just being self-aware.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have a hard time with that. And being self-aware of like why you're doing things, right? Why, like, I'll be the first to tell you I was not like passionate about beer. I wasn't like, I wasn't, I was more probably passionate about like getting some sort of approval
Hmm.
that I never got when I was young. Um, and like I just kind of took it to the craziest, ridiculous level of like building these multi-million dollar businesses when
Yeah.
really that's really kind of going overboard, right? And then
Yeah.
luckily for me, I in the middle of that and trying to like the need for that approval, and that's really was probably the motivating factor to do a lot of this stuff. I actually fell in love with building brands.
Yeah. Where?
So that kind of worked out. I think where it's
Yeah.
scary is when you're doing things for the approval, then you get it and you wake up and you go, oh shit,
I'm with
I
you.
actually hate this and it's not making me feel any better.
Why was the approval needed though? Like, was there something that you felt like growing up didn't have it, or where did it come from?
Yeah, I think so. I think like, just wasn't what having sons now and a daughter, like knowing how I am with them and like the unconditional love and support and really just like presence,
Yeah.
like being there all the time. How are you? How's school? How's this? How's that? What's with this boyfriend? What's with it? Right? Like,
Hmm.
being involved and like you care like
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis. I got that from my mom, not so much my dad.
Huh.
And I think that constant trying to like prove something that I'm doing is
Yeah.
like for him to say, wow, this is amazing.
Hmm.
And it never happened. And then I think
Yeah.
when you find yourself, you kind of fall into that rut of like, well, you're trying to get approval in high school, right? Which is pretty common. And then
Yeah.
it just kind of that you turn into that person and then it just stays with you
Sticks with
until
you.
you recognize you. Yeah. Until you recognize you're doing it.
Yeah.
Right. And I didn't recognize it until later on.
Dude, that's big.
Not even after I sold St. Archer, man.
Really?
Like yeah. Yeah, I didn't. You kind of like take a step back because you kind of reach the top of the mountain and you go, well, like now what?
Yeah.
Like now, like this is it. Like this is it because I don't feel that. I mean, I don't feel that great. I wasn't like proud of myself. I didn't like. People always ask you the first thing you buy, and nothing. How did you feel? I always nothing.
Hmm.
I didn't feel anything.
Man.
You know.
It's almost disheartening for those who want to build that kind of business, right? It's like it's they was like, I want to
That's
build $100 million solve business. You're like, yeah, but when you do that, it's kind of like Jim Carrey says, I
yeah.
wish everyone could be rich and famous. They can understand it's not the bee's knees like you think.
Yeah, it's like, and why do you want to do that?
Yeah, it's big.
You know, why? Like, is it because you want money? Well, why do you want all those things?
Yeah.
Like what, and I think like, it's a days long conversation, right? Where you
Hmm.
really can get into it, but I think that's why so many people that are super wealthy and successful are miserable.
Yeah. Yeah. Met
They
a lot of
think
them.
that's the answer, and it's absolutely not,
Yeah.
like maybe I think I knew that. I knew that like the material wasn't going to do it.
Hmm.
It's funny how it comes at random times. It's not like, you buy a new car and then you're suddenly like, oh shit, I'm proud of myself. Like I did it. It's always something
Cool.
weird,
What was one of the weird ones? I'm curious because I'm hearing this guy tell me like,
Yeah.
you were seeking it. Did you feel that like did you ever get it from your dad? You've still never gotten that from your dad, or
No,
like, wow, it's
nope.
crazy. So then you
Yeah.
have this go
No.
on. Like, when did it settle in? When did that kind of dissipate? And you actually did
Yeah.
feel
Actually, the
accomplished.
last conversation I had with my dad, um, he shows up at the house and he goes, "Yeah, I mean, I thought your house was going to be bigger."
Oh wow, dang,
And then
that's
asked me for money.
it's amazing, man.
Right. And so
Yeah.
like that was like, but then it's, coming all the way around when I first kind of the first time I went like, wow, like this is pretty special. I'm a huge Philadelphia sports fan.
Mm.
My mom is from Philadelphia and
But you
grew
got
up
Ben
going.
Roethlisberger as an investor. How'd you do that? That's like a
That's my guy. Where I'm just not a Steelers fan.
there you go.
I'm
I
a
used to play with
Yeah,
him actually
yeah,
in
yeah.
the
Um,
Steelers.
if they're playing the Birds, I'm absolutely not cheering for him. But I think like, I would go to Eagle games as a kid at the vet.
Yeah.
And when my mom and I would fly in every Christmas, that's like the only place we really went as a kid.
Hmm.
We would go, if I was lucky enough to go to a game, we would go to a game and then I'm flying in, I don't know, like right before COVID. And one of the investors in this business is Howie Roseman, the president of the Eagles.
Hmm.
Um, and I'm flying in, looking down at Lincoln Financial where they play now,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I'm coming back to Philly as a 40-year-old man, and the president of the Eagles is an investor in my business,
That's
and
crazy.
I did it,
Yeah.
like
That was the moment.
I did it, and that was the moment, and I had no material had to do it. It came from being a sports fan as a kid.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. And that's when it hit me like, wow, you've really like, you know, like if you would have told me this when I was in middle school or high school, I would have been like, damn, man,
Yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
Like you actually did something.
Hmm.
And it wouldn't have been the cars and the house and it wouldn't have been any of that. It would have been, being a part of the, Eagles and having
Yeah.
the president be a part of my business. And,
That's cool,
that's what
man.
would have done. Yeah.
I like your framing here because I'm a big proponent of enjoying life, and everybody has this weird scale of success, and it's always this fast cars, more money, more everything. And I've always
Yeah.
told people, man, you kind of have to set your own scale. Like you have to, because if not,
Yep.
you'll create something and not like it, or you will create something you like and the world won't like it, and you'll adopt the emotion of the world when you shouldn't. So it sounds like you kind of have your own scale of what success and happiness is.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm a work in progress like everyone else, trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
I think really what I'm looking for now is more so contentment, probably than anything,
Explain.
and not content with business because I'll never be the competitive side of me
Always there.
will never be content. Like
Yeah.
I want to win at the highest level at all times by any means necessary.
Yeah.
And winning means the brands that I'm competing with turn around and look at me and go, "You beat my ass."
Yeah.
They might not
But then
say that like directly to my face, but
yeah.
you
Hmm.
know when I got you,
Yeah.
like, and until then it's a constant push.
Hmm.
But you need to separate that from your personal life.
Yeah.
And I think it's like, how much do you really need? Like how much do you really need personally and
Hmm.
like what really matters? And like, I would always kind of trip out on if you think about it, it's kind of backwards in life, right? When you're dying on your deathbed, you're not thinking about your businesses, or you
No.
you fucking shouldn't be,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
You're thinking about your significant other and your kids if you
That's it.
have them, and your family and your
Mhm.
your closest friends. Like, so why isn't that the priority?
Earlier on, yeah.
If that's what means the most, because that's what you're thinking about, then why do you spend 95% of your time on what you wouldn't be thinking about it on your last couple days?
Yeah. I like that, man.
And that for me has always kind of stuck with me.
It's big.
And so it's, Janine and the kids, and, that's the priority, and business is a distant second.
That was now, and I hear that now, and you alluded to it earlier. I'm wondering if you're like I was. Like I early on, it wasn't that. Was it the same for you? Like,
No,
yeah.
no,
Okay.
yeah, no, no, yeah. This has been like, that's what I always say. Like when people ask me to invest in certain things, or people want advice about their businesses, and,
Yeah.
I kind of skip all the business talk and get straight down to, when you start this thing, and if you, like, I had a 3.5 year old, my oldest son was 6 months old, and Janine, when I told her I'm leaving making movies and we're moving to San Diego, she said, "I'll find us a place to live."
Mhm.
Right. So
It's cool.
she, supportive, said, "Let's go.
Yeah.
Like, I'll jump in the deep end with you."
It's cool.
But then you come down to a new community, right? Your family and friends are gone, and
Hmm.
you have these two little kids, and I'm building a business. And, when your wife is, or husband is, pissed off at you, and you're not around, and like, all of the, adjectives that go around with, like, you telling you that you're not that great,
Yeah.
um, you have to go to work anyways.
Yeah, you do.
You have people's money on the line, and you have people's families that are depending on you, that work for you, and you have all these things, and like, you have to look at them and go, "I'm going anyway."
Hmm.
And like, do you really have that in you?
Hmm.
Like, do you really have that in you to do that to somebody? you know
That's the
and
journey, man.
it's not all rainbows and unicorns like they make it look like on these magazines or podcasts, or
Yeah.
it's just not that, right? I
Yeah.
can think of 10 business owners off the top of my head, successful dudes, like really successful brand builders, that are on their third marriage,
Mm.
and are completely miserable,
Yeah.
and have no relationship with their kids.
Mhm.
And it's like, I just didn't want to be that.
I dig it.
I just
We're
didn't
yeah,
want to.
very kindred here, man. I'm hearing you. I'm like, my heart feels your heart, dude, because I get it. I did the same thing. You bust it all and you break it and it all falls apart and you start realizing that all
Yeah,
that stuff it's worthless. And I have a lot of people that I know as well in that same bucket, and I think it's that
yeah,
same borrowing the wrong scale. Because I think there's this thing. I've kind of been playing with this language called hustle harmony, which
huh?
is like I love hustling. Like I love we're happiest in motion. When you're a creator, like there's something to
Agreed.
being in the flow, right? I want to make the puzzle, not look at the puzzle being done. Like, all right, I did it. Give me a new
Yeah,
puzzle. But then also there's that balance of that's not as enjoyable if I don't have the home harmony in place.
for sure.
And we talk about this balance, and I don't think balance exists because balance says this weight is the same as this weight. I can't do that in my
Yeah,
life. Sometimes it's
yeah,
more in business. There's more in family, right? But harmony is like, well, you can have a different tempo in this side, and you have a different, instrument here, but it all comes together to make a beautiful harmony. I kind of am hearing that through like what you're saying. I think that might be like you have a hustle harmony to you.
yeah. I mean, it's. I think it's a constant work in progress.
Hmm.
And like, really, if your home life is, in my opinion, like, if your home life is kind of a mess, like, how productive are you? You
Yeah.
know,
Heavy heart.
like, you might show up at work, and you can leave everything at the door, and I think that's important. But, like, how content are you? It's impossible,
Yeah.
right? And I think if you know that your home life is kind of a tornado, and, it's hard to focus, man.
I agree.
And it's just like, I don't, I can't focus when the people that I care about most are upset,
Hmm.
you know.
Yeah, do the same.
Uh, but the funny thing is like, society celebrates the asshole.
Yeah, they
That's
do.
what's fucking crazy,
It
right? Like,
is.
that's what, like, do you like, that's where, I would turn on this show of, like, for the investors, where they want you to be this, like, hard charging
Yeah.
prick that doesn't care about anything, doesn't care about anybody, doesn't care, like, just wants to win. It's funny that that's the person they tell is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, is that amazing? That doesn't, when you say it like that, that doesn't sound that amazing.
No, no, it doesn't.
You
But
know?
it's a thing that is definitely shown, and it sells more magazines and covers. Simon Cowell, the angry judge, gets the most love. It's the
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, it's like, I mean, Steve Jobs was a fucking asshole,
Yeah.
you know?
It's all the
It's
love.
like, dude, and that's, like that's, I mean, was he, dude, he was an innovator,
Mm.
right? Like, but I mean, he was a horrible person, which is, how many people say that worked with him? Pretty
Yeah.
much everybody,
Yeah.
right? And
Yeah.
like, but people still universally
Have
think he
a,
was like
they
amazing.
feign a depth of respect for it. I get it. It is a weird world, and that's why I say kindred, because I get in these conversations, and I'm typically in my world not seen as the norm. I'm a guy
Right.
who I am most definitely. I turn down speeches and stuff. I'm the same. If my wife and I are fighting, I can't be on a stage. Like I'm just
No.
awkward. When I played football, we've been doing this since we were 16. Like when I play, I was like, do not pick a fight before a game because I will be
Yeah.
worthless in a game.
Yeah.
But same, man. I've always had this anchor there, and I think it's funny is I went down the path of trying to be the hard charging, but it didn't work for me. It just didn't
No.
work. And
No, because it's
yeah,
not really you, right?
yeah,
And like if it's not really you, and there's people that's really them,
yeah,
right? Like with speaking of Steve Jobs, you act like that, and a lot of that comes from insecurity,
yeah,
right? Like,
hmm,
and then you get some sort of like power over folks, and your insecurity of needing approval.
yeah,
That's where all that came from him, from
hmm,
his childhood,
yeah,
right? And it's just like how much can you control it? You get addicted to the approval and the praise and all these different types of things.
yeah,
I just would rather be more myself,
hmm,
that is more compassionate and warm and kind of just, you know, I can be sympathetic to what everybody else wants too, right? And I've found all the way around, that's how you get the best out of people,
yeah,
like that's how you get the best out of the staff. And I know I'm not great at a lot of things, and when you know you're not great at a lot of things, you hire the best,
yeah,
right?
hmm,
And if they want to
uh-huh,
be around you and they believe in you, then you'll build a successful business.
yeah,
But if you think you can do it all and you're just going to be like a hard charging asshole egomaniac,
yeah.
like
Doesn't work too long.
chances are you're not going to do anything that special.
Yeah, or longevity or legacy build. That's why Zappos was so great because before the leader passed away like that, so he just was a guy that cared. Do you think it's a big
Yeah.
piece of why your brands have grown? Is that just like
Yeah.
because it's a big piece of it, I
Yeah,
think.
and I think they get both sides, right? They
Yeah,
they get somebody that like listens and like understands the things that they need and want,
hmm,
and wants to try to accommodate those things to a certain point, right?
hmm,
That's responsible for the business. But then they get someone who's, ultra competitive and wants to win,
yeah,
right? And does not accept losing,
hmm,
right? And whatever that definition is. And I think if you can find a balance in between those two things, I think you're in a pretty great spot. But um, it's tough. It's taken some time.
yeah. Definitely, that makes sense, man. Since I think the tough part's the part that's so enjoyable, though, because then you get to be an example. I've always enjoyed like whenever I have my companies, I've had gym business and I've had consulting companies. I have like a speaking, coaching, consulting business, and I have about 12 employees. Definitely not the stature of what you are, but I want my people to have an amazing place to work. Like
Yeah,
I want them to have the oddity of people going like, "Hey, where do you work?" And like, "Oh, you had to work today," and them going like, "Yeah, but I love my job." Like I
yeah,
want to provide that for people. And I think that's what I've had people work with me for as long as like 12 years, like in
yeah.
all different businesses. Cause like, I just want to work with you, whatever you're doing, like bring me on. And there's something to that. Cause then I get to be in peace. I get to be in joy. And then I think we create better. And then I think that does come through in what we deliver to the people who are purchasing it.
100%. I didn't even realize that. What our CFO now. We were going through some financial exercise as closing out the year, and she was saying, she's like, looking back, she had she was an investment banker before she was our CFO, and she worked on the St. Archer and Coors deal. And
Mhm.
she said, the one consistent thing that I've noticed through all of your businesses, and like now looking at the financials, and like the overhead never changes,
Mhm.
right? The personnel overhead never changes, which I thought was strange. And she said, you've never had any turnover.
Hmm.
And I guess I never thought of that
Yeah.
until she said that a couple of weeks ago. And I started thinking back through all of the businesses that I've created. And while I've been the leader of them, I've
Yeah.
never had one person quit.
Wow.
I've
That's
never, and
awesome.
I've never, literally never even thought of that.
Yeah.
But, through 10 years and multiple businesses, and, I've definitely fired a good amount of folks,
Yeah.
but I've never had someone quit,
Yeah.
which
That's
which I
press saying
guess
something, man.
that's one of the things I'm most proud of. Like when I
Yeah,
say that, that's where I'm the most proud. Maybe not as much the other stuff that everyone would think I would say, but the
it's
fact
big
that
though.
people have believed in me and the
Yeah,
brands
what you're
that
creating.
much, that's a big deal.
I don't. I'm trying to think back. I don't think I've had anybody like quit either. No, I haven't
Yeah, I
always.
mean,
I haven't built businesses as big as yours. That's a different
but that
thing.
doesn't matter. It's like it's all relative, right?
Yeah,
Um, like think about that's a huge deal
yeah,
if that's like even if you've had three people work for you for 10 years,
yeah,
the fact that they've stayed the whole time, that's a big deal, man.
yeah,
That's a big deal. That's a testament to who you are and
yeah,
who you are as a leader, and obviously someone they trust you.
yeah. It's
It's a
big.
big deal to have the trust of people like that.
I fully agree, man. That's big. Do
Yeah.
you think that, and as a, we'll call it a somewhat of a transition, do you think that's how you're able to get like some of the people to believe in you enough to invest in you? Because you've never actually gone the route of like traditional, investment type stuff, yet you've raised what,
Yeah.
$53 million.
Yeah.
There's got to be something that carries over into your ability to do that, or was that like just like your passion flows through? How did you do that? Is a good question.
Yeah, I think like, a lot of I get that a lot, right? Most people that's like kind of they think that's the starting point of a business. Like how do I go raise money and how do I
Yeah,
do this and that? And really like um that's a tough one because really the answer is I it's a God-given personality thing,
hmm,
right? Like when I believe in something and believe in what I'm doing, I can be convincing,
yeah,
you know?
hmm,
That's just like, and I think when starting with St. Archer, and then obviously as you're successful, it gets easier, right?
yeah,
Like, right. It's not like that first 3 million every
yeah.
time,
You got
right?
proof. Yeah,
But that first 3 million, it was the authenticity of what I was saying. Like people could feel the passion of what I was doing. Like I said, if you think about it, they're investing $3 million in a guy that knows nothing about beer, is
yeah,
not a brewer,
hmm,
and doesn't know anybody in the beer business, right? Like
yeah,
really, you have no business doing
yeah,
that. And but I think it was me kind of conveying my vision and passion for building a great craft beer brand. But
hmm,
then I was in the deep end,
yeah,
right? That's part of the reason I had to put myself in the deep end to tell people like I moved my family here. I
yeah,
have two little kids. Like this has to work out,
yeah,
right? And I think people start businesses and they want to keep doing this on the side and they want to do this until this starts happening and they want to like play it safe. But
hmm,
if you're really that passionate, when you go, yeah, I'm all in. There is no escape hatch.
yeah,
There is no plan B. I'm in the fucking deep end.
yeah,
We'll go. I got 25 grand,
mm,
right? It has nothing, and they don't know anything about beer,
yeah,
but they go, this dude's back's against the wall, man.
yeah. It's always a different way
With
to fight.
kids, with a wife, like,
Hmm,
yeah, I'll bet on somebody like that
yeah,
10 times out of 10. And I hear that very rarely
mm,
from people that ask me to invest in their businesses. They're always like, well, I'm doing this thing. And then if this, I do this at night. Nah,
yeah,
nah. I'd rather invest $100,000 and someone goes, I have no side. This is it right here.
yeah.
I live, eat, breathe, everything this.
Hmm.
Okay,
It's
great.
different. It's different push, man.
Yep.
But people aren't
Yep.
willing to get to that level. There's this desire for
No,
security net to test it and
it's
try it.
scary.
Yeah, it is.
It's scary, but for me, it wasn't scary because I knew I was going to be successful.
Get faith in
Like
you.
there was no doubt in my mind, not an ounce, not a shred of doubt.
Yeah,
And like a lot of people say that, but like I know in my heart how I was then,
yeah,
and there really wasn't.
yeah,
There was no, and the crazy thing is Janine, my wife, she felt the same way.
yeah,
And I think when you have that backup from a partner that's like, dude, there was not a doubt in her mind I was going to be successful. She's probably the only one, her and my mom,
yeah.
that have ever just been believed like,
Get on a
we'll
shadow.
figure it out.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I was a horrible student. My mom went to 10, you know,
Yeah,
I was a horrible student,
oh wow.
but she always would say
But
like, I don't worry about you. And I know you'll be all right. And
figure
I
it out.
believe
I
her.
was the
Yeah.
same way, man. I have. So if you go back to schooling days, I am not like my grades won't show it. But if I want to know something, I'm like a savant at it. I will figure it
Oh,
out. I won't even
same.
sleep. I'll spend hours at night. At one
Yeah.
time I got bored. I was like, I want to figure out how to make an app. So I spent an entire 10 hours in a day everything, the
Yeah.
world shut off in the middle of my workday. By the end of the day, I
Yeah.
had an app built. It's just like we'll
Yeah.
figure, and I did, and it was a
But that's the
prototype for
thing.
an app
It's
we have
like you
now.
have, I'm like, I'm never going to do algebra 2.
Yeah.
I mean, what do I need to sit here for? This is ridiculous. Like,
Hmm.
this is such a, like, why do I have to do chemistry? I'm never going
Yeah.
to be a chemist. I'm never going to be, I'm not going to be an engineer.
Yeah.
Why am I sitting here?
Yeah.
Right?
Different. I like that though, and it's something that's I mean, like my oldest son, he's more of like he's a book smart. I do like my wife. My youngest son,
My
ADHD
daughter
like
too.
me, they got to
Yeah.
go do stuff. It's the creation with the hands. I love that definition you have of the desire to create, because that I've never heard it framed that way, and it definitely I'm letting it simmer in. I'm like, yeah, I like that
Yeah.
definition. It feels good because it is like it's a desire to code and put something. So have you gone and done these things like? Not only have you been able to have a single brand sell, you had another brand wanting to sell, you're building more brands. What are the biggest
Hmm.
things for you? Like once a brand is up and building, what are some keys that most people wouldn't look at that have allowed you to incorporate everything you do know into making a brand not just kind of launch but grow over time?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's constantly putting your foot on the gas and knowing what the definition of that is, right? And
Okay.
in my field of alcohol and building these brands, it's really innovation,
Okay.
right? Like in today's short attention span society,
Mhm.
you really constantly need to keep your brand fresh. And I think that's why a lot of the big brands are dying,
Mhm.
right? Because these smaller brands, people, first of all, they gravitate towards the authenticity of
Yep.
the independent,
Mhm.
right?
I like that.
Um,
Agree.
but then you constantly need to evolve and you constantly need to innovate. And I think people like just getting it off the ground is one thing,
Yeah.
but then it's like constant, everything from social media to new packages to the whole 9 yards. Like constantly talking to people in an authentic way
Yeah.
it's a lot.
It's gotta be a big piece of it because I think the things that I buy into, I like when I get fun copy on stuff like the boxes and the packaging and the branding. I'm like,
Yeah,
put some thought into it. Like it feels like
yeah,
a person's there bringing this thing to
yeah.
me.
When people start mailing it in, people are smart now.
Yeah, we are.
Like they see right through everything,
Yeah.
and that's why I still do the Instagram.
Mm.
Like
Mhm.
I still do the Instagram and make all the films for all the brands
Awesome. Really?
because yeah,
Oh, that's cool.
that's that's where people connect.
Yeah.
Like that's the that's the warmth and like
Yeah.
it's really me, right? Like when I respond to people on Instagram
Same
and
here.
like I ask them what they think about the beverage, it's me. Like
Hmm.
they know it's me. I tell them it's me,
Yeah.
right? And
It's
and
cool.
no one does that stuff,
Yeah,
right?
it's different. I have, so I'm the guy that does the same. I'm phenomenal in terms of how I think I'm phenomenal in how I make sure it's me communicating. I do have
Yeah,
like one other person in the team. If I get a lot of messages, I'll go in and help out, but I'll
yeah,
get back. Like I'll eventually like, hey, sorry, so and so answered, but I'm gonna get back to you.
yeah.
But I agree with that, man. It's what's funny. I was just thinking about I'm looking at the notes I have, and uh and so you have this offer from Anheuser Busch. I'm a man of faith, and I believe nothing happens by accident. And today, before I had this this interview, I went to my PO box to grab a box that I somehow got in the mail because like people send me things, and it's a box that is probably a good like 2 feet by 18 inches. It's a box. I open it up, and it is like 15 koozies, probably like 20 little bottle things, all like Anheuser Busch. I don't even drink beer like that. Like I drink some Guinness. So the day I'm talking to a guy who has to do with alcohol, I have a box of Bud Light koozies and little like sweaters and weird stuff. I have no idea how that happened, man. It's super. My wife,
Crazy.
my wife's like, "What do we do with this?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't even know how this ended up in our
But
house."
that's exactly what I mean, right?
Yeah,
Whereas like if that was me, I would have sent you like a direct message. Hey man, I'm a huge fan of the show. I heard you were blah 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 blah.
yeah,
I'm gonna send you some stuff. This is what I'm gonna send you.
mhm,
Like just enjoy it. Let me know what you think.
yeah.
Right?
Person.
But like just sending a pat, you're like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this now?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a whole bunch of cups.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're
it's
like,
cool.
great, I guess.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't know what to do with it.
Yeah,
I'm thinking in my head like you can't. I
yeah,
don't know if I can gift this away. Like who do I give this all to?
yeah.
Oh
It's
man,
bizarre,
it is.
right?
It bizarre is a good word.
But that's the thing. Like those, those big corporations, they don't, you know, um, they don't know.
Yeah, no, I totally get it. And they're still big. They're rolling and doing their thing. Man, I have thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you, dude. Like
Same, man.
I wish that we had more time. I'm sure at some point in time, maybe we will connect. You never know. The world's kind of a big place with cool things in the future. But I always have this kind of question I close off with, and it's more for the heart, just to kind of see what your thoughts are. You can take it anywhere you want. Here's the
Mhm.
question: what promise did God make to the world when He created you?
Oh boy, that's a good one, man.
Somebody asked me one time, and it caught me off guard, and I was like, "Oh, I like that. I'm gonna ask everybody that." So now I do.
Um, wow. I think, um, you know, that's a good one. Um, I think probably, I think what God would say is, and I'm a spiritual guy. Um, I'm gonna give you this work in progress, but like stick with him because he's gonna figure it out.
Mm.
And when he figures it out, it'll be special. And but stick with it because it's gonna might take a minute.
Yeah, yeah, all the
and,
best things do.
and but like the heart and the humility, it's in there.
Mm.
So like just bear with it. But yeah, have some patience because it's coming.
I like it. It's a good one, man.
But that's it's one of the better. That's probably the best question I've ever gotten doing an interview.
Thank you, man. Glad you enjoyed it.
And that's like, and I think there's not enough spirituality, and that's the humility that I think is lacking with folks today.
Mm.
But it comes from believing in something bigger than you, and people have a really hard time with that in this egocentric world.
I agree. Yeah, it's that.
But
It's a.
humility would be nice.
It would be,
you know
man. It's when there's something bigger than you, then you realize like everything is not so big,
yeah, yeah, relax a little bit,
right?
relax a little
Yeah,
bit. Yeah,
it's the cornerstone of my family, my marriage. It's a big piece of it. Faith's a big,
big deal.
and it's one thing that bothers me is people go, man, thank you so much for openly sharing your faith. I'm like, man, it's weird that, and I'm not a Bible pusher guy anyway. It's my thing. But I'm like, it's
Yeah,
weird that people thank me for talking about it. I'm like, man, everybody, if you have that, just talk about it. But it's one of those
yeah.
things.
People, it's everything is overly sensitive nowadays.
Yeah, true. Unfortunately.
That's a whole nother 2 hour
Yeah, it would be a
podcast.
whole. We can sit here. No, that's a whole other
Uh,
conversation. Grow up in the world like my son. I coach football. I played professional football, and so like the world that I grew up in. That now I'm like I can't even think or say half the things that I want to think or say
no,
without the parents or somebody freaking. I'm like, all right, so I'm gonna raise my kids in here and just I let them know like, hey, here's what I think's gonna help you, but also pay attention because when you go out there, people don't think like that. So like that whole interesting area to navigate. But dude, I've really enjoyed hanging out with you. I love that I'm on a call with a guy who is worth multiple millions of dollars. And this is not a knock. This is actually a positive. But I'm like, you're like, I'm just gonna pop my camera up with my family stuff, with the faith thing in the background and the tree. Like, I love that. I seriously, I'm like
yeah,
a regular dude. I like that. You don't have to. You're not coming on here trying to polish up and look at me, world. You're like, I'm gonna just open my heart. So I thank you for coming on and
yeah.
opening your heart, opening your story. Man, if I could do anything to help you in the future, by all means, feel free to reach out and ask. I don't know what I could do, but you never know.
I
Uh,
appreciate that. Same.
yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you. Outside of that, man, I appreciate your time hanging out with us. Where can I send people to find out more about you, hang out with you, all that good stuff?
Yeah, just the brand, Instagram, Ashland Hard Seltzer and Villager Spirits. The best place. I'm on the gram, but I don't
Yeah,
do much on it, so I'm not sure how exciting it is. But
I got you.
the brands is the best place to go look at what we got going on.
Cool. All right, I'll zip it there. Our team will have all the little links and everything inside the show notes. But yeah, man, I'm gonna go check it out myself. I'm doing this 75 hard thing in January for the second
Oh, you're
time.
doing it.
I'm doing it again. Last year I did it and lost 37 pounds because I got to be a
Is
chubby.
that right?
I was a chubby bunny, bro. My playing weights, I was 10 pounds above my playing weight, and it was not muscle. So,
Is that right?
dude,
How hard was it? Was it tough?
yeah, well, my wife did it with me, which made it way easier. We're gonna do it again,
Way
but she's
easier.
gonna do. But no, I just, it's probably the first week and a half, 2 weeks, and then it gets into this rhythm, and you feel really good. Like your brain feels clear.
What was the hardest part?
For me, it was the picture, remembering the picture at the end of the night, because you had
Oh,
to every night you have to take a progress pic. But I had a routine. I set a quick routine. Ride the bike, read the book, do it was simple, and then I had a second workout in the back in the day with my wife, or
yeah,
go for a walk. because the workouts, you can actually stretch if you want. You don't have to do a full blown crazy hard workout every time. But dude, lost a bunch of weight, but I felt like I had my life
But
rhythm
what an
in check.
accomplishment. It's a
Yeah,
big deal.
it's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's one of those ones I put my hat on, and it was like, yeah, it was not easy, but it wasn't a walk in
So
the
no
park.
sugar. You got the whole, right?
Well, you can
What was
choose the
the,
diet. I chose no sugar, no dairy, and no starchy carbs. That was my thing. So I didn't no candy. I could no milk, no cheese, none of that stuff. And no alcohol. You can't do alcohol. No cheat meals. But I mean, when you got the household like your wife with you, it makes it so much easier. Seriously.
man, 75 days, you felt like a different person, huh?
I was. I looked like a different person. If you saw the pictures on my Instagram, go back to January, I was
I
fat and
bet.
then I was skinny again. Like I looked like I was like again. On my back, the back picture for sure, like there's like I'm a box and then I have a little V again. Like it's like someone sliced off like a tri-tip, got the fat off real quick. Dude, it was chubby.
I love that, man. Congrats. That's a big
Thank you.
deal.
Thank you. So yeah, that's the thing, man. It was we may do it again, but I'm gonna check out your products, man. I may grab one before the new year, but after that, not for 75 days. I'm gonna do it again.
That's it. That's it.
Yeah, man. Seriously, thank you so much. I'm gonna let you guys go. I'm gonna let you go too. But hey, if you're out in the world listening to this episode and you're like, man, this was a great one, I want you to share it. So with somebody in the world, hit it, the little share button and pop it out so people can kind of listen to it. Also, make sure you rate and review the episode because the more people that see the ratings, see reviews, go, hey, it's gonna be cool, and they tune in to get this great information from great guests. And if you know someone who needs a seed that can be planted by my man Josh, I need you to go out there and just take this, copy, paste it into their text message, send them a text, whatever it is, get it into their world. Because sometimes we're too close to actually give the insight that some of the great minds, soul, and honestly success can give them. So do that. Outside of that, as always, make the most of your off shift moments so you can make shift happen. It's Anthony Trucks and Josh Landan signing off. Hey, thank you for tuning in to the Shift podcast. I pray that we gave something amazing to your life. And if you found this episode served you in some way, I would love if you could share it with people you know, people you love, as well as your community, because you never know who needs that simple little seed that can grow into something amazing for their life. And the actual training doesn't stop here. If you want your free copy of the show notes sent to you after every episode so you can get the major points consolidated down, simply go to textanthony.com and message the word notes. Till next time, make shift happen.